What happened?
You are live right now.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing take two. I've never done a take two before, so I'm trying to find out why our technical genius Eric over here is calling for a take two, but we're going to go with it anyway. So, yep, hello, here I am, Cord Pronowski, publisher of Yankee News, coming to you from the Parkway Diner in Stamford, Connecticut on Monday, October 20th, the year of our Lord 2025. And we've got quite the smorgasbord here of things to talk about. Yep, we're going to talk about the No Kings nonsense, and we're going to talk about Gaza, FAFO, it's going in that direction, the performative art, that is the Ukraine-Russia struggle. We're going to talk about China's threats. I don't know if you heard our Treasury Secretary describe this, but it's a little weird, Canada is on a tear when it comes to killing its own people, and I will explain that. Of course, we do have to talk about the jewels of Napoleon that were recently stolen from the Louvre in a daylight raid. Yeah, we're going to get into that. Now, and the other thing, this is kind of telling, but the whole thing, today we had the Amazon Web Services Network quote go down. Now, I didn't experience any problems, but some of the people I work with did. And this raises a whole host of issues that we need to talk about, so stick around for that. Car repossessions are up. We talked about this 2 years ago. So what's going on here? And just to make it interesting, there's this wild proposal, right? Build a tunnel that joins Russia and Alaska. I don't know, who benefits, who loses in that deal, but we're going to talk about it. But meantime, your call to action. Please go to our website and our YouTube channel and subscribe. If you have a Gmail email address, that will do the trick. We're still 5 short. We just need you to press that subscribe button, okay? And tell Tong time. Yep, the law will ignore you for only so long. And unfortunately for Tina Peters, it's just getting harder for her. I don't know why there isn't more of an aggressive response from the Department of Justice, but it's getting harder for her, no question. So let's start with the theme. No kings, no brains. I'm going to put it the way Joe Rogan put it. 99% of the people who protested on Saturday are either losers or FBI informants. That was your audience. And the fun part, of course, is now after it all happened was, well, how many were there really? The organizers, of course, are boasting 7 million. Now others have brought it down to 5 million. I have a funny feeling the number may be even lower. But we have another problem here. I'll just read this from the op-ed. An observer on the ground in Greenwich, Connecticut noted their crowds are smaller than last time, and they even stacked the protests so people could travel from one to the next. Plus, she didn't mention all the out-of-state license plates. So it may have been in Greenwich, but you had lots of people from New York State showing up. So it's stuff like that that makes you wonder, well, how real was this anyway? But all of that's very silly because the whole idea of no kings is ridiculous. He's not a king, he was duly elected. You say he's acting like a king, and he's not. Every time he gets into a tussle with the court system, he obeys the Constitution. Kings don't obey constitutions. Just thought you'd like to know that. As I say here, the implications of the accusation that he's acting like a king include acting without counsel, acting without consequences, and without regard for public opinion. And none of those things are true. What you have is a very loud liberal minority who is attacking a person who is respecting the interests of the majority of voters who put him in office in the first place. But I'll tell you, there's one thing that really gets me, okay? If you can't tell, I'm going to reveal it. This is my big reveal, okay? Yes, I'm a baby boomer. Yes, I'm a former hippie. Yes, I was a flower child. It's true. So, when at this one demonstration, a young reporter was talking to a group of people who are clearly my age, if not older, And all they could do was chant at her to shut up and go away. Well, there's just one problem. The chant became a monotone. Go away, go away, go away. Are you people sick? What's the matter with you? Well, anyway, I just realized. So these members of my older generation who really never grew up and really are still hippies, still believe in hey, peace, peace, man, peace. Okay, and since they're like droning on in a monotone, they believe in peace, they are peace zombies. Okay, new concept. Get ready. Peace zombies. People who have no brains, keep repeating themselves, have no conscious awareness where they are, and they just keep mouthing off. Peace zombies. That's what we got. Now, meantime, I need to, quote, rub it in. I'm going to rub it in. We have the link. Go check it out. There's an article here. Let's see. Yeah. Where is it here? Yes. Okay, this is from June 8th, 2012, and the title is Liberals Want Obama to be a king, not a president. Gee, what a surprise, you know? Plus, I believe there's a link that I have up where you had Obama talking about how he wishes he could be king. So don't give us this crap about Donald Trump being like a king when it is your very own who openly wished that he could be a king. Meantime, you people are incapable of telling the difference between, yeah, we'll get to it. Thanks, Will. Incapable of telling the difference between, how do we want to put this? How do we want to put this? Between when somebody is joking around and making fun of you versus being serious. So when we have the picture of Donald Trump flying in a jet as a pilot, wearing a crown, dumping crap on protesters, so many people say, that's what he really wants to do. It's called trolling. You might want to look it up sometime. Yeah, all right, let's move on to the next thing here. Gaza. You know, people were dancing in the streets celebrating what, a week ago that this deal was struck? And now, in record time, first you had clashes between Hamas and some of the clans in Gaza. Then you had them pulling out what they thought were Israeli collaborators in their midst and murdering them right on the spot, right? And now you have them turning around and killing Israeli soldiers. So this is seen as, of course, as a ceasefire violation, but we didn't really think they were going to honor it anyway, and this just kind of confirms it. But hey, let's see what comes next, all right? The point people on this are Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, you know, the guy who has been pushing the Abraham Accords. I don't have a good answer, but how they're going to get Hamas to dial it back and come back to the table, you know, it just, you know, we're left with very unpleasant things here. And I want to remind you, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that we did see that video clip of the tens of thousands of Gazans going from the southern part of Gaza to the northern, wanting to go back home. And now this is happening. I detect a hot mess. I really do. I'm very worried. Now, let's get on to another fun thing here, Ukraine and Russia. This, again, I said performative art, okay? Part one, the reports talking about how Trump and Zelensky had a shouting match, right? A shouting match. And it was a shouting match of the same old thing. Trump telling Zelensky that he'll have to surrender the Donetsk region. Well, there are reports that Ukraine has, I don't want to say made gains, but the ability of Russians to function in the Donetsk region has been made more difficult, okay? Yet he's telling them they need to give up the Donetsk region. At the same time, you have Zelensky screaming he wants more weapons, of course, and he wants to be able to strike deeper into Russia. And we have, you know, our doubts about that. Okay, so these two, it's the same fight. So is this to entertain Putin? I mean, is Trump trying to say, well, look, I'm doing the best I can, Putin. I had to shout with this clown to get him to listen to me, but we got nowhere. What is it? What is it? I have no idea. But right now, I just feel like, yes. At first there was talk, it sounded like there was going to be a peace deal, and now we're back to this. So I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think. And speaking of not knowing what to think, good old China. All right, so it's another week in which we've had several kind of related but different developments. So the one that got everybody upset was when China announced it was going to impose export controls on all their products going out to other countries around the world. So Trump came back and said, all right, if you're going to do that, we're going to impose a 100% tariff on all your products. So take that. Then it seemed like he walked it back. But then we had Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, say, well, you know, ladies and gentlemen, this whole thing got started in a very unfortunate way. For some reason, some foreign trade representative from communist China just showed up unannounced in Washington, D.C., pounded the table, made demands, made these threats, and then left. Well, we have no part of it, and we can assure you that Prime Minister Xi has no part of it either. Anybody fluent in Mandarin around here? I mean, I want to know, how do you say bullshit in Mandarin? Because, you know, Xi would look at this and say, you're not fooling me. Then again, we would say, well, you say he showed up unannounced, but I have a feeling Xi sent this trade representative to kind of test the waters, to see how he would respond to a threat like that. So what's the truth? Meantime, this other report comes out. Here we go again, the purge of what, 9 top PLA generals within the Politburo. So that was seen as a rather large number. However, who's doing the purging? That's not clear. There have been other reports in the not too distant past suggesting that Xi, even though he has done everything he can to eliminate any and all opponents within the Politburo, still has some people who are fighting against him, and he may actually be losing control. So that article is there. It's from Gatestone Institute. Check it out. Meantime, I need to move to something very, very disturbing. Canada, our so-called neighbor to the north, who seems to be turning into the ogre to the north. So here's a report from Life News that Canada has euthanized in total over, I guess, I'm going to say at least 5-10 years, 90,000 people. State-sanctioned murder of 90,000 Canadian citizens because they're sick, they're frail, they don't want to live anymore, they have something wrong with them, whatever it is. I'm sorry, 90,000 people is a lot of people. And if we were to adjust for population for the United States, we're probably looking at about 900,000 people would have been euthanized under this regime. This is sick. There is something seriously wrong with them. I don't know what the answer is, but they're going to have to get a grip because this is not how a society of any kind should function. Meantime, so the shocking news from Paris. Oh my goodness. That's right. That's pretty good. You know, we're waiting for the movie. Okay, somebody's going to make a movie based upon what happened in the Louvre. It's going to be, let's see, I guess it'll be Brad Pitt, George Clooney. It'll kind of be like, what was that movie? Ocean 11. Yeah, Ocean 11 all over again, but Parisian style, okay? And they're going to show how these guys concocted this bold daylight raid and actually made off with those jewels of Napoleon's. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see. Anyway, the bigger thing here, ladies and gentlemen, you may have also heard today that, quote, Amazon Web Services broke down. Their segment of the internet fell apart for reasons that nobody can explain yet. Okay, Amazon Web Services are cloud services. And if anybody has followed the big deal with cloud services, they pride themselves on being reliable. I'm sorry, when everything goes down, you can't access it and use it, you've lost your reliability. And I think there's a chance you've lost your credibility. But here's the bigger issue. Such a huge number of brand name companies lost their capability to function on the internet that we're going to have to start asking the question, are these web services, are these cloud services becoming too centralized? Is there some form of monopolistic practices that are being approached here? When in fact, maybe you need to look at breaking this up in order to avoid these problems. And by the way, was there any hacking by the Chinese that had made this happen? Hard to answer, and I'll tell you why. I was listening to this gentleman who used to work with the Israeli Defense Forces for cyber security, and he made an interesting revelation. Speaking at least for Israel, who you can be sure manages some of the best cybersecurity in the world, they have an embarrassing number. And I would like to share this embarrassing number with you. When you ask them the question, what is the average amount of time from when the network is penetrated to when you actually detect the penetration? A day? A week? A month? Nope. 6 months. In other words, whoever manages to get into the network, on average, will have 6 months of free use of that system to explore, to get to know it, to find other flaws in it, before those who run the system actually discover that you're there. 6 months, okay? You have to let that kind of sink in. If that's true for web services that have been compromised, if that's true for any other internet-connected what am I trying to say, server farms, so serious rethinking is going to be called for. And by the way, on a totally unrelated note, I also want to mention that, stay tuned, quantum computing may be announcing a new revolution. And I'll give you a hint, stable qubits, Q-U-B-I-T-S, stable qubits. You'll want to look it up. Okay, next story kind of annoys me, because we talked about this 2 years ago, all right? I don't know, do you remember when we talked about this, Eric, about car repossessions and how the car repo market was getting crazy, the used car market was getting crazy?
Yes.
Right. Now, one of the curious things is there's a, how should I say this, a maldistribution of used cars in America. There's a vast majority of them are in the West, and there's a shortage of them in the East. So when market conditions change, then there's some shifting around here to try and compensate. But no, this is and by the way, I mean, the reason I think this turns out to be so important is that it was, when I found this article, this went on for a long time, okay? Now, it may seem like I'm jumping ahead, but every story has what's called the buried lead. In other words, there's the part where the story really should begin, okay? So the part where the story really should begin involves with car leasing, whether it's new cars or used cars, car leasing, all right? And where did it go? I want to find it. The car makers are at fault here, okay? They could manage this in a way such that these car repossession crises and problems wouldn't occur. So let me just start with this. This is the buried lead right here. Automakers acknowledge affordability is an issue, but continue prioritizing high-profit models like luxury SUVs and trucks over entry-level options. So what do you think happens? The people who are buying these cars, whether they're new or used, try to migrate upward in the market as well, such that, get ready for this. So I asked Eric, what do you think is the average monthly car payment for a leased car? And he said, what was it, $300, $400? $400. No, the average is $750. Unbelievable. And 20% of those auto loans are over $1,000 a month or more, okay? Oh yeah, almost. So, all right, so when you have conditions like these, how does this happen? It happens because the auto market makers are pushing the market towards the higher cost, higher luxury cars. And then they say, oh yeah, affordability is a problem. Well, you're creating the problem, all right? And you're creating the credit crunch. You're creating all these things. All right, so let me just throw out some other facts here for you to consider. Nearly 14% of new car buyers in September had credit scores below 650. Do you think people with credit scores that low have any business trying to lease a car? They can't pay their other bills and they're going to do this? No. It's the highest level since 2016. More than 6% of the subprime loans are now 60 days delinquent, the highest rate ever recorded by Fitch. Okay? These kinds of things should tell you that there's a problem. Yet, I don't know, Wall Street seems to act by its different set of rules. They say, okay, so there's higher delinquency rates, repossessions are up, we're not worried. Okay, well, I'd love to know when you're going to worry, because this could keep getting worse and worse. And by the way, I think we reported on this briefly. So one of the leading car companies, finance companies, this Tricolor Holdings, which has since gone bankrupt because, well, they were doing a few things that weren't quite on the up and up with car leasing. So they got caught. And this doesn't help the car market any either. Anyway, there's a whole bunch more here for you to look at. Will this turn into a crisis? Maybe. And that's why you got to follow it. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about, I think, is the coolest thing I want to, other than, I'm sorry about Tina Peters. I wish something would happen to help her. Maybe if lightning struck Governor Polis, maybe that would do it. I don't know, something's got to do it. Anyway, in the news, we had Putin proposing to Elon Musk the idea, since Elon Musk has his boring company making tunnels under Los Angeles. Hey, Elon, or Comrade Elon, why would you like to build a tunnel between Russia and Alaska? So this would be across the Bering Strait, and they say it would be 18 miles of tunnel. Now, the original thinking is it would be for rail service. Okay, makes sense, we'll see. But it's an idea that's being discussed, and it'll be evaluated. Trump seemed to be favorable to it. It's pretty wild when you think about it. It's one of those, quote, bold projects where you have engineering vision to make it happen. Who knows? Anyway, my parting comment is that this week has been what I call the week of false moves, all right? There have been so many cases here where it seems like somebody says something and it doesn't turn out to be so. The battle over export controls and tariffs, the stuff with his trade representative, okay? The comments that have been going back and forth over Ukraine and Russia. There's some other things. So in any event, that's it for now. Talk to you later.